This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com. Thanks for downloading Grilled by the Staff Canteen. I'm Cara, editor of the Staff Canteen, and in this episode I spoke to Adam Hanling. It's important to note that I spoke to Adam before the recent announcements regarding lockdown and the furlough extension. Adam is the chef owner of the Frog Restaurant Group, the AH Restaurant Group, Eve Bar, the Stag and Ugly Butterfly. His businesses have been devastated by the effects of the coronavirus, but he is keen to get up and running as soon as the government gives the green light. He talks to me not only about the financial impact, but the ripple effect which it has had on his family, investors and his staff. We also discuss the mental strain this financial pressure has had on people, himself included, and whether he thinks people's mental health will be affected in the long term. On a positive, he does believe the industry will get back on his feet, and he's enjoyed having more time to spend with his son.
So this is for our podcast Grilled. So thank you for agreeing to have a chat with me. I think what I'd like to start with is, could you maybe give us a quick overview of the businesses that you have and what the impact the virus is currently having on them?
Businesses, what I had against what was before the virus is massively different. So obviously the Frog Restaurant Group, being two of them, one in Hoxton, one in Covent Garden. The AH Restaurant Group, which is the Belmont Cadogan partnership that we have with the Cadogan Estate. Eve Bar, Iron Stag, Bean and Wheat, and Ugly Butterfly. Now is a little different.
Yeah. So talk us through what has happened and the difference.
So from the virus, well, it being all of a sudden a kind of a lockdown shutdown with no real support from the government at the beginning, was basically sentencing hospitality businesses to death, really. Making you stay open, making you have to, still pay the bills, still have the food in case one person came in, even though it was only for a couple of weeks. You're in a restaurant, you're 1 week or 2 weeks away from being bust. So that was quite of a big shock. And now, with still furlough in place, everybody's just like, oh yeah, you're getting furloughed from the government, you're okay. Yeah, that's all fair and well, but we still needed to pay 3 months of that 80% up front before the furlough comes back in our accounts. So for instance, just this month, we got it back. When you got this many staff, that's hundreds of thousands of pounds. And then obviously with the government loans, the business interruption ones and also the support ones, is basically non-existent for hospitality, even though the government says, yeah, we'll look after you and nobody's going bust. It's a load of rubbish.
So in terms of the loans and things, is that something that you have applied for or not?
Right. Yeah, I've applied for them. I've applied for them and been rejected from them.
Oh, really? Okay. And do they give you the grounds for the rejection, or is it just simply you don't qualify?
Well, whilst I was in the car, I was actually heading to my operations team now to tell me the reasons why we didn't get it. Right. So I'll find out very shortly. But from what I'm hearing from everybody, that all my friends in the industry that are applying for them, nobody's getting them. So they do a big song and dance on the TV to say that, yeah, these loans coming in, 360 billion for a bailout project, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of bollocks, really. Where I don't see anything, I haven't seen or heard anyone that it's been accepted for.
Really? Okay. That's interesting. That's really interesting. And you also mentioned furlough as well. So how many people, how many staff do you have in total that you're having to put on furlough? And I know you said obviously there's a backlog on that because you have to pay that before you get it. So I'm assuming you'll be on the same page as a lot of employers that you need that furlough for longer than what is currently in the pipeline.
I think we need furlough towards the end of the year. So if they're going to do, which I think they probably will, a gradual opening, meaning that perhaps some restaurants that are quite large won't open till later on in the year, etc., that sort of stuff. Social distancing in the restaurants, if they can't oblige them, again, might not open. There's always the what ifs and buts. Do I trust what they're saying now? Not a chance in hell after all of the lies about the business loans and stuff like that. But the thing that is worrying me is, you can't rehire everybody again on the same level we had because the business isn't there. So it's much smarter that if we furlough still half of the people, so when business picks up and people stop being scared, then we can bring them back in. Until then, well, yeah, it's going to be mass slaughter as soon as furlough's over.
Right, which is obviously, it's heartbreaking as someone who, as a business owner, because your team, it's a family, isn't it? And I imagine you've got a lot of people that have worked for you for a long time.
Yeah, I would say probably 60 people out of all of our staff has been with me for like 5 years plus. No, maybe that's a little bit too much. Probably 3 years plus. It's about 60 of them. And that's the crux of it. The longest person is Stephen, our group chef. He's been with me 12 years. And it gets to a point where they've put their heart and soul and their life, their relationships, their personal life, their family second, and their job first. And then when they're in need, from no support from the government, it's very difficult to protect them and support them. I just moved out my house yesterday because obviously furlough, I need money. So I moved from Clapham to a much smaller one, which I'm totally fine doing. I love my staff, and I think all business owners should do as much as they possibly can to have money in the bank to pay the staff. But there's only so much of the stuff you can get rid of before I've got nothing to give them to protect them.
Yeah. So what is the feeling among your staff then?
I think the ones that have been with me for ages, they're more relaxed because they know that we'll do everything we possibly can to make sure it goes smoothly and they're protected. The ones that the slightly junior are the ones that I don't spend quite as much time in them areas. They're worried because they're uncertain. We're passing on the same government legislations we've been getting told, same as every employer, but that ain't enough because I still don't know. The crux of the actual information that we're getting given to us is pretty vague.
Yeah. And obviously, you said that obviously you have a number of businesses. How are you feeling about that? Are you feeling like that some of them might not be able to reopen, or are you confident that it will be a slow process, but are you confident you can get back to where you were?
With not having support from the government, we still have to pay rent, for goodness sake. Out of all my properties, the landlords, some of them are saying you can defer the rent. Okay, that's beautiful. The other ones are saying no, rent's still due. Now, are you taking the piss? How the hell am I supposed to afford, like £500,000 worth of rent when I have no wages coming in? So I'm like, well, no, I'm sorry. Staff come first. But if we don't get these help, then I would imagine most of my restaurant group is going to go.
Which is just a horrible, horrible thought, especially because you spent so much time building that up. And before this happened, it was a very successful business, right?
Man, it was hugely successful. The only reason why I've expanded so much is because of the success of it. And that's not because of me. I'm a tiny percent in that. That's because of the team. And that's why it's super important for business owners to really look after the people that dedicated their life to make them who they are. Without these guys, I'm just a normal person. I am just a normal person, but I mean, I won't have nothing. And the thing is, it's really worrying because my family come from nothing. I come from nothing. We built it all together, but yet their little house in Scotland, which is worth next to nothing, mortgaged up. They let me put the debt that I've got against the company, against stuff like that. So my mum and dad have not very much at all, but they'll give me everything they possibly can. The thing that's worrying the shit out of me is all the people that are helping me along building my group are all going to lose everything because they've got stuff tied into the company too. So it just doesn't affect my staff. It affects my family. It affects, my investors. It affects my shareholders, my board. It doesn't just affect me. It's a mass domino effect of horrible destruction. I know it sounds very dramatic, but this is your heart and soul that you put onto, a business. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the consequences, like you're saying, are huge, and the knock-on effects are huge. So going back to the rent, I know I've seen the Hospitality Union are calling for a 9-month rent pause. I don't know if you've seen that or not. They've gone to the Chancellor about that for hospitality. And I just wondered, obviously, most businesses will support that, but is 9 months long enough for a rent pause?
To be fair, anything is long enough. 3 months is long enough. But, anything is good enough. But the thing is, some of these landlords, Like my Covent Garden ones, they're amazing. You know, straight away within 2 weeks, they were like, "We understand. We love your business. We can push it back for 3 months and then we'll review it." That sort of stuff. My other ones are like, "No, rent's due," you know, and so yeah, any support. But everyone's talking, and everyone did talk at the beginning. But yet, what was said and what's reality isn't really there. So my faith in the government of what they're saying is yes, it's pretty much non-existent, which is terrible, because I actually think that as much as they get slammed left, right and centre from everybody that thinks they know how to be a politician better than they do, which they people study for it, it's a little bit, you know, soul destroying that you can't really believe in your own government.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're being pulled in so many different directions, aren't they? And it's a situation that we're not prepared for, which possibly we should have been more prepared for. So it is really difficult. But from the hospitality point of view, it's such a huge industry. It you know, it's the last thing you want is to be feeling like you're being let down.
Oh, for sure. But don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want to be a politician at this time of year.
No, I don't think anybody would take that job right now. So, and you said obviously some of your landlords are being difficult. Have you had are they open to conversations, or are they just, no, I need the money as well?
Yes, some are open to conversations for sure, and it's on a monthly basis, and then it all gets put back on. Because fundamentally, what you're going to do, take a business that's pretty much failing anyway off me, go for it. You know, that's a huge loss if you take one of the properties, which they won't legally be able to do. But it's some of them are a little bit. We have bills to pay as well. We have the mortgage to pay on the building, which is understandable. I'm pretty sure they're protected through their banks, but yeah.
Yeah. So it is this kind of all come together? Is that why because you've got a crowdfund going as well, haven't you? Is that partly why you started that, and is that hoping to raise money for your staff and for your business to keep it going?
Yeah, we did do that. You know, obviously my payroll's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds, and we only did a little bit just because we literally had no money then. I was selling everything I possibly had. How
many people do you have on the payroll? Sorry, Adam.
Well, it's split. So we have the Cadogan estate take care of one major part of my payroll, which is under the Belmont brand.
Yeah.
And the AHG, so the Adam Hanling Restaurant Group one, that deal with just the frogs and that. And I think it's about 80 or 90 staff on site on that side of things. But in total, it's 220 inside of the group.
Right. Okay. Which, like you said, is a massive wage bill, right?
Oh, bloody hell, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I only created that one because I desperately needed something just to pay the staff some money. You know, the one thing about businesses, well, restaurants, mine in particular, I don't know about everybody else's, is we don't have a surplus of money in the bank. So when this virus, everybody don't go to restaurants, but everyone starts to pay for the food and everything, you don't have a surplus of money to say, well, actually, we can survive 1 month. Lots of businesses might, and I really wished I had that, but I didn't. And I didn't have that for every one of my properties either to be able to protect it. But, you know, getting rid of my house, say, brings them some money. Doing, you know, loads of stuff brings in it all. But now we're not really crowdfunding so much for that because we're protected in that way for a little while. We are crowdfunding for OK Hospitality, which is a thing that my restaurant group's doing, cooking for 1,000 meals for vulnerable people every single week. Okay.
Is that part of because you're part of the Open Kitchens UK as well? Is that the same thing, or is that different?
Yeah, that's what I meant. My bad.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'll talk to you about that actually in a bit, but just to go back to obviously the hospitality industry. It's been said now that pubs, restaurants, bars are going to be the last out of lockdown. First in, last out. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think that's the correct way to kind of to hold it until it's ready, or would you rather that it came out quicker?
Well, again, that's more the doctor's kind of thing. You kind of go by what they say because they know how this thing works. I can't answer that question. Do I think it's right? If the government and the medical officials say it's the best thing to do, then sure, I'm with that. Because at the end of the day, I want this to be fixed and over as quick as possible.
Yeah.
It's opening right now, big gatherings, and then all of a sudden, 2 months later, you're in lockdown again. there's already going to be probably, I don't know, 40% of the industry not be able to survive it. If they did it again, there would be way more loss.
Yeah. So effectively, maybe patience, as much as it's difficult, patience and making sure that everything is in place is better than throwing the doors open and it, then having to shut them again.
Sure. If patience comes in and the rents get held, so they don't have to be accrued, the staff still are on furlough, the business is just on a standstill. You're okay there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's to reopen the doors again to be able to afford them staff to be working without the covers coming in. That's the issue where businesses need support with.
Yeah. And then obviously when lockdown is lifted, social distancing is still going to be in place. So how do you see that working for a restaurant, a bar, a hotel? Like realistically, is it viable?
Yeah, we've actually put in all of our plans in place regarding social distancing. So Covent Garden will lose 10 covers, making it a 34 cover restaurant, not a 44, where the tables are spread larger. Chelsea restaurant is losing 6 covers. It's because it's already quite a spacious one. A lot of our operations, we put business plans in place to be able to still keep social distancing.
Yeah. How will that affect the dining experience, do you think? And because in terms of your staff giving people menus, will it be cashless? Obviously people working in the kitchen and the front of house, how do you see that working?
We've been looking at everybody else, what they're doing, like disposable menus and things like that, and we're not going to do any of that until the government say we advise that to happen. Other countries may do it, but I'm a sustainable restaurant group, and if the government's saying that the paper you can you don't have to bin it every single time one person's touched it, it makes no sense to us to do that. So we'll literally follow the guidelines of what they're saying. In terms of washing your hands, I think the hospitality industry is actually probably one of the top that understand personal hygiene a lot more than other industries. So I don't think we have to do that much more. We're always well groomed. Our nails are always really lovely and clean. We wash our hands more than probably any other industry a day. And I think that the hygiene of how good operators do is perfectly fine. So other than that, we won't use that one at all. We'll just do social distancing. And that does 2 things. Brings us less revenue, which is okay, because it'll actually make the guest experience slightly better, because they have more time with the service staff, more time with the chefs coming out serving the food, a little bit more intimate. My Covent Garden restaurant's a beast of a place. It was completely full every single day, and I love it because I love that environment. It's really, really awesome, but sometimes it does limit the experience, the personal experience.
Yeah. Okay. And I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but will the hospitality industry ever be the same again, or has it changed for good as we kind of know it, do you think?
No, it'll definitely come back together. The one thing about our industry is everybody needs to eat and everybody needs to drink, and we're born to have fun. So I think hospitality industry will go back to normal for sure. And I think come December time, that's when it's going to get back. It's a time where you're forced to socialize and celebrate because it's Christmas time. And I think come that'll be the turning point where people say, it's Christmas, let's do it. And then come January onwards, it'll go back to normal. That's what I think.
Okay. And what about the mental strain, Adam? Because this is, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure for businesses, employers. It's a lot of pressure for employees. What sort of strain mentally do you think this is having on people in the industry?
Man, do you know how many times I've been in tears in this coronavirus?
Right.
I'm opening a business plan. I'm opening a how to do this, how to do that, how to create stuff, and I'm literally, I'm frozen. I don't know how to progress. I've never been in a situation,
Yeah.
The only reason why I'm being able to bloody wake up in the morning is my operations director, Nicola. Without her, this place would have been finished well before now, and I would have been a nervous wreck. But man, you take everything so personally because you can lose everything. I don't care about money or whatever. I care about losing my restaurants.
Yeah.
I've never been one to chase the pounds at all, but I have been one to chase opening restaurants because I like that.
Yeah.
When you lose everything you've worked 16 years for, it's really horrible.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. How did that feel initially? Was it just a bit because it was so hectic and everything was changing so quickly, you didn't really have time to process it, and now you have kind of time to think about it? How was that initial impact when, the government said don't go to restaurants and you knew that we were heading into a crisis?
I think the first day I just got a little bit angry by like, fucking idiots, what's going on. The second day I was just like, oh wow, business is dropping off big time. Third day I had an emergency board meeting with my group team as well as my board, and it was okay. That's it. We have to start closing people, and we need to fire half of the team. And then that was a decision which I had to make. I'm the CEO, I'm the owner, and I'd be advised by my awesome board. And that was the time where I hid in the little cave in Eve Bar, and I cried my eyes out for, fuck me, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do anything. I was angry. I didn't want no one to look at me or see me. And then Nicola, again, my bloody saving grace, she fired all of the Ugly Butterfly staff, most of the Hoxton staff, some of the Covent Garden staff. Luckily, because of furlough, we put them back all on our books and that sort of stuff. But it was just like, fuck me, the whole world has just crumbled on your shoulders, and I was broken. It was actually the worst I've actually been in a long, long, long time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a horrible thought. And do you think that's going to have like long-term damage on people's mental health? Because it's such a big thing to deal with.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I try and be very strong-minded, and sometimes I break down, but I do it in private. I'm not one to show my emotions publicly at all. But yeah, some people can handle things a little bit different. We'll find out what happens after I've had this conversation with my operations team.
Yeah. And realistically, we've talked about your businesses that you have, but as a whole, do you think there's going to be a lot of casualties within the industry?
40% of the industry won't be waking up. That's what I think.
Really?
In the whole UK. I think London's got it good because there's more denser population, but I think outside of London, they're worse off, I think.
Okay. And so you've talked about the government already, but going forward, in your eyes, what do they need to do to prop up the hospitality industry? Because it's such a massive moneymaker, isn't it? It contributes so much to the economy. What do you think going forward they need to do?
Stop bullshitting everyone. If you're going to say you're doing X amount of billions into the industry to keep it afloat, but you don't follow it up. Like I read a statistic, was it 1.4% of business loans for hospitality are getting approved? People think that's bloody normal. I didn't ask for, well, I'll be honest with you, I asked for 650,000 support fund. That's not that much at all in comparison about how much this company makes. So I've got no problem being honest about it. And that was even rejected. That in terms of one restaurant, two restaurants, that's a shit ton of money. But in terms of a group, having that was all we were asking for, and obviously it's going to be paid back. We did business plans that did all of the repayments and all that sort of stuff, the interest, etc. So we submitted a plan that was pretty well written, signed off by people that advised me to run my group as well as my phenomenal accounting team. And even that was rejected. So the only way I would say is the government needs to stop bullshitting everyone. If you can't support them, be honest. Don't get everyone's hopes up and then take it away, because it's only going to make you crumble harder. I
mean, according to UK hospitality, I think it's 18% of hospitality loan applications have been approved. 71% of insurance claims have been denied, and 71% of the sector's sites are ineligible for grants. Which are pretty worrying statistics, right?
Yeah, well, at least the approval rate has gone up. That's from the last time I was reading. But yeah, that's great. Like I'm too big for small business interruptions. My insurances have all said no. They get nothing. We get nothing back. There's everything that you pay stupid amounts for, like insurance. Nobody's protecting you. No one.
Yeah.
You're left on.
I mean, insurance is obviously a big one, isn't it? They're really dragging their feet. So, was that something you ever thought of as an extra policy, is having a pandemic cover?
We have a pandemic cover, but we don't have one that's listed as coronavirus because it was non-existent. So the pandemic cover needs to list the actual diseases. And if it's
okay.
an unlisted one, and that's the little bullshit clause that they're doing.
And they're standing by that, your insurance company, are they?
Yeah, we're about to launch something for that in a few weeks.
To tackle that, right? Because that's a massive blow, isn't it, with the insurance?
It is, but to be fair, insurance companies that they're always very difficult to get money out of. And to be fair, I can imagine if every business does claim, they'd probably go bust themselves because everybody will be wanting some money from it. So the only people that got rich are the people that own the insurance firms.
Yeah. I know it's another one of those issues that every day is being talked about, isn't it? Is the insurance, and I think some people thought they were going to be okay, and then now they're not. So on a positive, you started to say about the Open Kitchens UK. So tell me a bit more about that and what that's for.
So Open Kitchens, it was started in Nottingham with a couple of really awesome people to cater for vulnerable people. So vulnerable doesn't necessarily mean old people or whatever. It could mean everything in terms of providing for families that can't afford to feed their children. Very much for the NHS staff. So they're not, in terms of they're vulnerable, they're on the front line, but also they don't have time. They're working their ass off and doing a phenomenal job, as well as care workers and all them sort of stuff. And we're doing our little thing. My team is itching to get back in the kitchen anyway. So me and all the senior team, including like the general manager and operations, they've even got their chef whites on, and they're in the kitchen because we're trying to, which we've got enough money to do for the next few weeks, to do 1,000 meals a week and give them all away. But the cost of us to make these meals is £1.85. Well, it's £1.65, and then the 20 pence is on the containers and all the protective gear like mouth masks and all that stuff. And if we can just do our little bit, then at least we're doing something instead of standing still when everybody else needs help. But obviously, as in terms of business, we can't fund that ourselves, which in history, my group has always been very supportive of all of these sort of ones. But we have no funds at all to put in more to be able to do all of these ourselves. So we're doing a Just Giving page to raise £11,000 for 6,000 meals. So it's £1.5 basically a meal.
And are you working with your suppliers still? Are they helping you out?
Yeah, we're working with some suppliers. It's been, but again, they're also in the same boat. Without loads of businesses need to pay them their money back, but obviously a lot of them are getting put on hold until the staff are paid, and then hoping the business loans will then come in to repay them. But there's a lot of them have been very supportive, which is amazing that they can still do that.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's great that you can do something, because it must be driving you and everybody else mad. You're such creative people, and you're normally going 100 miles an hour. So it must be nice to have something to do.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%. And it's also very good to have the people back around you. You've been in isolation, bashing your heads against a wall for about a month, and it's good to see people. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I can definitely get that. But it's also nice to see, as an industry, everyone pulling together. But that is kind of what hospitality is always about, isn't it?
That's what hospitality is about. For me, there's two really good things that have came out of this pandemic. One of them is I've reconnected with my son. I worked every single day, and I didn't really spend any time with him at all. Never had dinner with him at all. The nanny had always looked after Oliver, but now I eat with him every day. I have lunch. I don't have breakfast. I've got lunch and dinner with him every day, and I've built that bond up, and it's bloody awesome. And the second one is I've seen how many people are actually caring about other people. There's no more of this, horrible, dick fight. Everyone is really, really looking after each other and coming together. The communities. I finally met my next door neighbours.
Yeah.
Sadly, have to leave. That sort of stuff. So it's really lovely how people are talking to each other, and you're getting to know new people. Obviously from social distancing, but when you're sitting in the garden, you're like, oh hello. You get to chat, And I think that as a whole is two nice things: connecting with your family and the entire country coming together.
And do you think these are things that you'll take forward with you once you're back into business? Do you think you will take a step back and slow down now you've realised that those are things that you weren't doing?
I would love to, but I don't think that would be the case.
Yeah.
As soon as I'm allowed to get back in that kitchen, I'll go back to working like crazy. Obviously, I'll probably take a day or two off to then spend with Oliver and the family and have some fun. But other than that, no, I'll be full on running back in that kitchen.
Yeah, and what's the vibe amongst everyone that you're friends with, chef-wise or hospitality-wise? Is everyone feeling the same as you, feeling like maybe you're not getting quite what you need from the government or not quite getting the answers? Is it frustrating?
100%. But I keep seeing things all over social media about, them being rejected, no support, no guidance. It's very vague. We have, a sheet of paper updated by the government to tell us what to tell the staff and what's happening, but yet it's not good enough, I don't think.
Yeah. And do you have, I think to finish, do you have a plan of kind of attack for once you can start reopening? Have you got that all in place already, or is that something you're still working on?
Yeah, we have a plan for every single, so we actually thought that the industry would, obviously this is when it first started, would go back together at the end of next month. So we have our plans in place, our new menus, our training manuals, everything ready to go. Obviously, it's probably going to be pushed back and menus will then change.
Yeah.
So we have a structure ready to shoot hugely. The only way that structure is going to be reality is if we get the support we need to stay afloat.
Yeah. And obviously, you said you'll be opening with skeleton staff, right?
It would need to be but ones to still give the same experience we would love to give in all of our restaurants. But yeah, so that's why the prolonged furlough is the only way that will keep them in jobs.
Yeah, yeah. And do you think the public will have the confidence to come back out to go to restaurants?
I do. I think. I know. I know the restaurant I'll be going to as soon as this is over, and I'm just dying to go and eat in another restaurant.
Yeah. Which restaurant's that, Adam?
Greenhouse, my favorite restaurant.
Oh, okay. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I know I can't wait to just do a simple thing like go to the pub. So
man, I love KFC. It's closed.
It's amazing the simple pleasures in life that you take for granted, right?
Hugely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. I really appreciate it, and fingers crossed for everything going forward. I know it's a really worrying time, but you sound like you and your team have got, good plans in place.
We're being headstrong, but being realistic at the same time.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. All right, well, thank you so much for talking to me, Adam, and I will speak to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this interview, and if you have any comments, feel free to tweet us or comment on the post. We're making all of our interviews available to download. And finally, if you like what we do, whether it's our podcast or our videos or even our features, please head over to our Patreon page and support us there. This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com.